give a big round of applause and warm welcome to Dr. Maurice Dawson Jr.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. Now, you've heard many technical talks, and my talk isn't technical, right? So one of the things I like to do when I first start the semester off is have students raise their hand to a number of questions. I say, how many people can speak a second language? Nearly all the hands raised. How many people can speak 3 languages? 60% raised their hands. And then I ask, what were your GPAs back in your high school? And they're all good. They're all 3.6 or better. So then I looked around, I was like, well, here you're not special. You may have been special when you were in high school or where you got your BTech or undergraduate degree, but I was like, here, you guys are all the same. And so they think, they're like, well, Dr. Mo, that sounds really mean. I'm like, no, it's not mean, it's reality. So let me say what you need to do to stand out. And so this is where we have the talk of unexpected connections, networking, right? Everybody has these technical skills, but these soft skills are lacking. All right, so professional encounters. So I bring up the story of the first really great job I had, right? I was working at a company in Huntsville, Alabama, and I felt I wasn't utilized enough. So what did I do? I went to a job fair. And on my resume, I was always told to put things in there that are unique, right? So Huntsville, Alabama, 1 out of every 4 people is an engineer or a scientist. So you have a tech degree, you're not special. So I speak fairly decent German. So I put that on my resume. And so when I went to the job fair, I met a recruiter at Rockwell Collins. He looked at my resume, he was like, all right, computer science, you can be a programmer. And I was like, I don't want to be a programmer. I don't want to program GPS. And so when I walked away, he noticed German. And so he spoke out to me. He's like, du sprechen Deutsch. And I was like, yeah, ich sprechen Deutsch. I speak German. So he asked me to come back, and we conversed for about 10 minutes. Then he took a second look at my resume. He's like, oh, cryptography. I have a job for you. Do you want to go to Cedar Rapids? Now, I'm thinking it's Grand Rapids. I'm going to be in Michigan. I had no clue that Cedar Rapids was in Iowa. So I ended up living in Iowa for 4 years, but this was the best job I ever had, and it helped create the foundation for my entire professional career. That was one instance. My second instance, and I call it digital interaction. One of my closest friends, I met through a Facebook group, right? So if you're younger, you're probably thinking like your mom and your dad are the Facebook users, or you use TikTok and whatnot. But I use Facebook. We were just chatting in a general forum. And so we were going back and forth. And then this individual says, hey, Mo, I'm going to give you a call. So he calls me, uses a Magic Deck number, and I immediately knew that this was a call from overseas. And so I found out this individual was active duty in the Navy. He was getting ready to retire. And from that conversation, we became friends for approximately a decade. That individual became the keynote speaker at a cybersecurity conference. He used to be the former department chair for information technology management at this institution, and now he's a dean of cybersecurity out on the East Coast. Again, all from a social interaction online. And then spontaneous conversation. I was in Kosovo for a Fulbright Award, and I met one of the students, a Kosovar named Enkel. So Enkel and I, we just started chit-chatting. And he was like, hey, what do you think about the Balkans? I said, well, I've only seen Kosovo. He's like, Mo, do you want to go somewhere else? I was like, let's go to North Macedonia. So he took me on the trip. He didn't have to, but he took me on the trip. And because of that trip, him and I created like a bond, right? A very close bond. And because of that bond, it allowed me to create opportunities for the students here to do a study abroad in Kosovo. So last year, we had a month-long study abroad in Kosovo working with a tech company called Three Folders. It was a startup company. And my PhD student worked with a think tank in the Balkan region as well. Again, these were all just connections that were made in very unique ways. So there's a fear of reaching out, right? A lot of us have that fear of reaching out. We have the fear of rejection, right? What if this doesn't work out? Growing up, I was always told life is like you have 6 eggs in one hand, 6 in the others, and you can only choose one hand. It doesn't matter, right? So you're either going to lose one hand or lose the other hand, but you can't keep them both. And so that's kind of the motto that I live by, and telling individuals as well, like, you can't fear rejection. You just have to push forward. And then we overthink every reaction. In my class, I have students that pretty much group themselves, right? We have the students that are from India, students from Pakistan. We have our Muslim students. We have our students from West Africa, our students even from the Chicago region, and even those students that are from other states. Everybody groups together. And I look at these guys and I say, well, you guys do realize, like, you have a huge network in this class alone. You have students that may have grown up in the Middle East, students that have grown up on the East Coast, some in these European countries, and some of these African countries. But you are limiting yourself because you're staying in just this bubble. And so I make students, hey, move over to this group, talk to this person, share something outside the assignment. Even when we go eat, and I'm former military, so I say the mess hall, but we call it the commons. I say, go eat with this person. Invite this person over to help create these meaningful connections, right? And so growth happens in discomfort, right? You can't grow without remaining in your comfort zone. You can't change and still expect things to be comfortable for you. It's going to be discomfort. You're meeting new people, you're changing your various group settings. It's going to be a number of barriers that you're going to have to overcome. The other things that I believe are key is when you're having these conversations, it's important to stay engaged, right? When you meet somebody, you don't necessarily have to go up and say, hey, my name's so-and-so, I want to be your friend. No, let's not do that. What you can do, you can identify things of a person, and then from there use that to create something very meaningful, something very lasting. Hey, this person has a particular emblem on their jacket. Maybe it's some fraternal organization. Maybe you're not a part of it, but you're familiar with it. So you ask them, hey, I see that you have this on your jacket, and you start talking with them, right? You find some shared connection, and you continue to build upon that. There are many times that I will go to places that I've never been, and I will see individuals, and what I will do is I'll say, all right, well, how can I create a connection? How can I spark something, right? We may not look alike. We may barely even speak a common language, but there's some commonality between us, and I will use that to continue to build upon things. When I go through my friends list, right, I'll show students my friends, and I'll say, look at all these people. And the students, they'll look and they'll say, oh, this is interesting. I say, well, let me show you what these people actually do. This person's a CIO, this person works for their country's government as a senator, and so forth. And I'm like, now, what do you think these people have in common? They're like, well, we don't know. I was like, what do you think that I was able to do to actually engage with them? And so they say, I don't know, but I'd like to learn, like, how do I go and make these connections? And so we go through and we identify these things, right? Extremely important. And so you need to make bold connections, right? You cannot let these things stop you or be the barrier that you can't push forward. So there's unexpected benefits, right? So job offers, there's been job offers from these actual conversations, meeting people and stuff like that. There have been stuff online, in person. Additionally, there's been offers to go to other countries and do things for these particular organizations. Last year, I received a grant from USAID to do cybersecurity artificial intelligence. That conversation started with a simple Zoom chat, right? I remember that Zoom chat like it was yesterday. I was eating a bowl of ice cream, and we were just chatting, and we were talking about what can we do, and we were talking about like things to do in terms of specific region and stuff like that. So I had a little bit of knowledge of the Pacific region, and so when I talked about that, they were very interested. They're like, you know what, Mo, how would you feel coming here to give a talk and to meet with some government officials regarding AI and cybersecurity? I was like, sure. Now, easy enough, but the key is it was my network that allowed me to do that, right? And then the other thing is mentorship is another ordeal. There's another way of growing in your network and creating these meaningful connections. And then there's a number of key reflections. So what you want to do is you want to have meaningful relationships. Meaningful relationships, they don't follow a script. right? There's no script to say, all right, well, I'm going to say hello to this person. Meaningful relationships are things that you can do that show that you do care, right? I'm not going to call someone and say, hey, how are you doing? Do you have an opportunity for me? No. I'll make note of people's birthdays. I'll remember key things like, oh, this person's kid has this particular event. There's a baby shower. There's really things that I can do to show that, hey, this is meaningful, like it's not one-sided. And so I tell these students, one of the key things with these relationships is that you may pour a lot into something, but it doesn't mean you're going to necessarily get something back all the time immediately. And it doesn't necessarily have to be you. It could be someone that you actually know. For example, I have a student, and this student wanted an internship, right? So I know an individual. He has a company. He does solar panels, and so we spoke back and forth. Hey, this is what I have going on. And he's like, hey, Mo, do you have anybody that knows system engineering? I was like, yeah, I know a guy. He's really good. A lot of the stuff's related to cybersecurity. I think this is somebody you can use. And so again, that was me using my network to help a student get on with this individual to get some type of job experience so he can later use. Vulnerability creates an authentic connection. It's okay to be vulnerable, right? It's okay to be vulnerable. And then every significant relationship started as strangers. I have met a lot of people that were just strangers. In my neighborhood, I'll give an example. This is a good example. In my neighborhood, I just walk up to people. I'll say, hey, my name's Mo. I live around the corner. This is what I do. I like X, Y, and Z. We'll just chit chat. And then several months later, we're no longer strangers. We know each other. Same thing in the professional sense. There are a number of chapters here, and I have the students, hey, go to this meeting. Don't go up immediately and say, hey, I'm going to Illinois Tech. I'm finishing my degree in IT or computer science. I need a job. I'm like, don't do that. That's going to be bad. What you can do, you can say, hey, my name's so-and-so, and I want to get involved in this organization. I want to take on a role in this organization. And then after going to several meetings, then start talking about what you like to do for your future and stuff like that. And then I have a number of students they still have reservations about doing this. And so I said, okay, well, we're talking about job, right? So you don't want to do this for a job. I was like, do you want to do it for love? And then they get quiet. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about, Dr. I was like, do you want to be alone for the rest of your life? They're like, well, no, I don't. So, what I see is like a shift. And the students are like, well, I don't want to be alone. Like, no, I got to get married. Like, I either get married or my parents find me somebody. I was like, all right, well, think about this. If you had to reach out to someone online, what would you do? And so they think, there's like, well, I don't know what I do, but I would try to do X, Y, and Z. I was like, well, you can do this with any situation. So take that mindset and use that to create these connections. So you know what you would do for love, do the same thing just for your network, right? Very important. And so the whole conclusion is that if you're able to make these bold moves, you can grow your network, and growing your network will allow you to also help others. And that's something that I plan on doing and hope to continue doing as well at my tenure here at Illinois Tech.